Kyiv is shivering, not just from winter's brutal grip, but from something far more dangerous. Massive power outages are sweeping across the city as waves of Russian drone and missile strikes hammer the country's energy grid. Moscow says the attacks are retaliation, targeting weapons production and infrastructure after what it calls Ukrainian strikes on Russian civilian sites. But for millions of Ukrainians, the result is the same: darkness and cold. Kyiv Mayor Vitali Klitschko now warns the stakes could not be higher. In a stark admission to Financial Times, he says the question of Ukraine's survival as an independent nation is still open, and the crisis is no longer just military, it is political. Klitschko is openly accusing President Volodymyr Zelensky of undermining the city's response. He claims the central government has interfered with municipal authority, appointing military-civilian administrations and blocking coordination efforts. Zelensky, whose presidential term expired in 2024 but who remains in power under martial law, had criticized Kyiv for lagging behind other cities in handling outages. Klitschko calls that claim unfounded and says requests for direct talks were ignored. As Kyiv struggles with blackouts and political fractures, Russia claims fresh momentum on the battlefield. Army Chief Valery Gerasimov says Russian forces seized 12 eastern villages in just 2 weeks of February, despite severe winter conditions.
The special military operations objectives continue to be fulfilled. The offensive is being conducted across all operational directions. The armed forces of Ukraine are sustaining considerable casualties, which they are currently unable to replace. And given the declining personnel strength of their combat battalions, their primary focus is now on establishing additional unmanned aerial system units and significantly increasing the quantity of their strike drones. At the same time, the units of the combined group of forces are employing them on average at a rate that is twice as high as that of the adversary. In the 2 weeks of February, despite harsh winter conditions, 12 settlements have been liberated by formations and military units of the Joint Forces Group. More than 200 square kilometers of territory have come under our control. The most intense fighting is currently taking place in the area of responsibility of the Center Forces Group. The group's military formations are developing an offensive in the Dobropolsky direction. The liberation of the settlements Novi Donbass and Belitskoye continues. In Grishino, our assault units are destroying enemy formations in street battles who are holding positions in this settlement. In addition, units of the Center Group are conducting combat operations to capture Novopavlovka and Novopodgornoye, Todzeyapobeshi, Vosteye. In other operational areas, the Sever military grouping is continuing the expansion of the Securitas strips within the border areas of the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. 3 settlements have been liberated: Popovka and Sidorovka in the Sumy region and Chugunovka in the Kharkiv region. Units belonging to the West Group of Forces are currently conducting active offensive operations on a wide front within their designated area of responsibility. The elimination of the remnants of the enemy group, which is blocked on the eastern bank of the Oskil River, continues. In this area, Glushkovka has been liberated and fighting continues in the Novosinov area. In the Krasnolimansk direction, the clearing of enemy formations from the settlements of Drobyshev and Yarove is nearing completion. Troops of the southern grouping are advancing towards Sloviansk.
Reznikovka's liberation is concluding. Ukrainian units in Konstantinovka continue to be destroyed. Stepanovka has been liberated in the Alexandro-Kalinoshki sector.
The Vostok troop grouping is currently advancing in the eastern part of the Zaporizhzhia region. In an attempt to halt our ongoing offensive, the enemy command has redeployed its most highly trained assault units to this sector from other operational areas. However, the grouping's formations are confidently repelling all enemy attacks. Enemy formations are sustaining considerable losses. In February, within the area of responsibility of the Vostok Group of Forces, the settlements of Starukrainka, Pridorozhnoye, Zaliznichne, and Svetkovoye came under our control. The Dnieper group of forces is continuing its offensive operations in the direction of Zaporozhye. The populated areas of Magdalinovka, Primorskoye and Zapasnoye have been liberated. Today, in the course of our work, we will examine the results of combat missions performed by the formations and military units of the Center Troop Grouping, and we will specify the order of further actions in the Dnipropetrovsk direction. Let's begin our work.
The advance comes days before the US-mediated talks in Geneva aimed at ending nearly 4 years of war, and just ahead of the invasion's 4th anniversary. But Moscow's demands remain unchanged. Ukraine must withdraw from the Donetsk region, terms Ukraine has repeatedly rejected.
We maintain contact with the American side in all areas. As I already replied to the journalist, now Secretary Rubio, in 2 hours we will have a call with Witkoff and Kushner, and therefore we will do everything so that in no part of the negotiation process can anyone blame Ukraine, that we are stalling, that we are not supporting the end of the war, that something depends on us. Such signals are strange, and sometimes we hear in the press that the end of the war depends solely on Ukraine, and we are not agreeing to it. We talked about security guarantees, but we need the appropriate package. The United States and Europe, they think that bilateral security guarantees between us and the United States are of great importance. Trilateral security guarantees are extremely important because it means that there is a coalition supported by the United States. Our membership in the European Union is a rating on the security guarantee ladder. We need it. It is a package for us. One element does not work without the other, because there are economic security guarantees. Today, we constantly stress that we must be ready. My team has to prepare their part, and the parliamentarians their part. Technically, Ukraine is supposed to be ready in 2027, but the date of approval and acceptance depends on the dialogue with the 27 member countries. However, we need to agree on the date. In this document, I mentioned this earlier, I think that with all due respect to the USA and Europe, but if there is no date in the document, I think that Russia will block our membership in the future, and this will be a problem for all of us, because they will use other countries or will work independently on this, because they do not want to see Ukraine in the European Union. Since the very beginning, from the first days of the war, naturally all our troops, all our people wanted not to be alone in this fight, but I have never publicly could propose the involvement of troops from other countries because I was afraid, and I think I am right, because I tried to raise this issue, but I understand the reaction. I never raised the issue of inviting other troops onto Ukrainian territory because I thought we would lose any support. I was afraid, and I will not risk it now. This is now because there is a high price. This is a decision that each country must make. Of course, we interacted with the Russians, but much more with the Americans. Their message is as follows: if Ukraine withdraws its troops from Donbass on its own as quickly as possible, then peace will come as quickly as possible. These are the guarantees from Russia. Our message is as follows. And by the way, when we speak with the American side, there are many questions from the pro-Russian side toward us. They say, you see, they have done a lot, that we only raise one issue, the territorial issue, and actually a certain concession. Maybe I am wrong here, but I think that they never pursued any goals other than the occupation of Ukraine. At the very least, what they want is Donbass, Donetsk region, but 100% in order to sell it as a victory to their own society. Germany pays more than everyone. It is the largest country in terms of aid. We cannot compare the economy of Germany and the willingness, how we work with Germany and other countries. We have started comparing this in a positive way with Norway. Norway also supports us tremendously. They have increased our aid through the Bern line, through the air defense resources line. Germany helps with money, air defense, and the Peril program. Norway helps with money, air defense, and the Peril program. So there are northern countries, there are other countries, but I will be completely honest with you that of course all European countries are helping, and Ireland has also increased the amount of its aid. Other countries as well.